my name's Jay. I'm a musician. Have been my whole life. I feel like I'm in an AA meeting. I'm responding here. No, I play drums. I took piano lessons when I was a kid. I learned how to play guitar from a book of Beatles songs. I got into lots of different type of music. Lots of rock and roll, punk rock and heavy metal early on, and then I got into jazz music and I got into classical music, and I ended up playing some orchestra gigs and touring with that, and then I kind of got back into more jazz stuff, some soul, funk, R&B. I had a performance injury about 5 years ago where I messed up my ankle pretty badly, so I stopped playing for a couple of years, and then I got back into it recently. I played with a couple local bands around Vancouver, and I did a couple tours over the island, and yeah, I'm involved with a local arts council, as well as doing some studio work for a local studio in my town in New West, and also just try to get out and do as much music as possible, basically. Vancouver music has always been strange, and Vancouver's a strange city, so that makes sense. Vancouver's a terminal city, so you don't get a lot of big acts coming through here. The ceiling is very low because there's not really a higher level to kind of achieve to. You can kind of get to a point, and then you got to go to Toronto, Montreal if you're staying in Canada, or you got to go down to Seattle or LA if you want to go even farther than that. I spent about a year in San Francisco in the Bay Area, or you go over to Europe. Those are the kind of your options. I find that the good things about Vancouver is that there's lots of room to do whatever you want. But the bad thing is about Vancouver's audience, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that it's not in our culture to go out and party with a band. And that's and I find that in terms of a scene, the scene has to support itself. So you start seeing the same people at the shows that will be performing at the next show, and will be then in the audience again at the next show. And so the scene sort of has to support itself that way. So that's been basically my experience. I think it's society nowadays, mainly, or just like the way our social structure is set up, is you got to find everything online. And if you can, people go online first. It used to be that online was a resource for people living in sort of the here and now, so to say, whereas nowadays online is the scene, and the here and now responds to that. So and what I mean by that is, if I want something to happen, I got to make a Facebook event, and I got to promote it, and then I've got to invite a bunch of people, and because it's happening online, it'll happen in real life. And the same thing goes with any production company or any types of promotion. There's still a lot that happens in a tactile way, but especially in specific to Vancouver scene, I find that it happens online more than it happens in real life. In terms of venues and promotion, it's a grind. It's a total grind to get anybody to do anything or come out to anything. And that's because people kind of live in la la land here. They're on the West Coast, and they have this mentality like, we made it and everything's fine. And there's no real need to get to reach a higher level, because there is no higher level to reach. You can get so high up on the ladder, and then that's it. You've reached the top of the ladder, and then you got to find a bigger ladder to climb. I think that's kind of my thoughts on the scene and promoters. I don't think it has anything to do with good music. I think it has to do entirely with friends. All with friends. If you can bring 90 people to a show, it doesn't matter what you're playing. You could be, screaming like a goat over top of a washing machine with a pair of Converse in it, and if people will come out and cheer and drink and spend money at a venue will book you. And I mean, kind of touching on the venues again, the reason that a lot of people have a negative opinion of the Vancouver scene is because of the venues themselves. Venues and restaurants and bars, pubs, places where live music can happen have some of the smallest margins, the absolute smallest margins to run a business. Some restaurants that I've dealt with in my professional life, they have 3.5% margins. How can you pay a band to come and do something, or how can you make a profit with that? I mean, that's like if you make $100,000 in the year, $3,000 will be a profit. You can't afford to spend money on that, when a DJ or a playlist will do the same thing, and you don't have to bring people out. I think it's been adverse to some people to put a band in without and nobody's going to come that night. I think some people think, oh, it's a live thing, so I have to pay cover, so I don't want to go. So it hurts the business instead of helping it. It always comes down to support. I think that it's support, but it's also a mentality, and I think a lot of mentality in Vancouver is that I feel, and I don't want to sound my own death wish here, but I feel like a lot of musicians are not very proactive in looking at their options and thinking laterally and getting their music to happen, and they have this idea of music happens in this place, in this bar, in this way, and if it doesn't happen like that, it's not really happening, and I don't want to be a part of it. Whereas, like, if you don't play a gig for 6 months, you're still a musician. You're just not playing live. I think that it's a smart thing for musicians to we have fantastic recording studios, and the cost of having your own home recording studio has gone down significantly. That if you can produce music and get it available online and find a market for it anywhere in the world, and get it playlisted or get it in front of the people who want to listen to that kind of music, that's way more important than trying to make the scene by only playing live. And I love live music, and I think live music is important, and I think it needs to keep going, and I think that it's there's nothing like that energy, and there's nothing like the feeling of playing in front of a bunch of people and of converting that energy. But we have to realize that there's not a big market for that, and you have to acknowledge that there's not a big market for that, and then you have to say, well, okay, well, how am I going to continue being a musician? Because you're not going to stop. Musicians don't choose to be musicians. That's just who they are. I think there is a lot of benefit to that if you have that kind of relationship, and if you have that kind of connection with people. A lot of people still have that kind of connection. There's still people out there that don't use smartphones because they don't want to take away from what they knew their life to be, and a smartphone would do that for them. I'm just using that as an example, but I feel like the most effective way is, if you want to get people out to your shows, you've got to market it to the people. You got to find your audience, and you've got to go to that audience. And a lot of the time, there is that audience in Vancouver. You just have to find it, and you have to exploit yourself to it, and really put yourself out there, and hope that it works. And sometimes it won't. And I've seen it work, and I've seen it not work, and I've been experienced of it working and not working. And I feel like if you can get it to work, you will have success in I don't want to say invading a scene, but in coming into and becoming part of and building and fostering a scene. But I think that you've got to go to your audience. So hand-billing is fine, but if you give it to some guy walking off the SkyTrain, it's just going to be some guy walking the SkyTrain like, oh, there's a metal show, or oh, there's a solo singer-songwriter. Well, this stuff's going to cost me money, and I don't really want to do that, and I've got to get to my next thing. Or it's expensive city to live in, so people don't really have the disposable income for that, because a $10 show also means $15 in drinks and the $20 to catch a cab home, and maybe you meet somebody and you make connection, you buy shots, something like that. So I think that there's merit to hand billing if you have that kind of relationship with people. If you don't have that kind of relationship with people, or you don't have that kind of a scene around you, you don't have that kind of an infrastructure, then I don't think it's really worth continuing doing that, to be honest. I mean, I should say network with everybody. I should say, put yourself out there. I should say keep working in your and the reason I say I should say them is because that's where I found success, is by just continuing to do that, networking, building relationships, supporting people, being actually genuine about things is there's no replacement for that. So I think that is probably the most important thing. However, I think that more than anything else is have a goal and have a direction, And if you're just doing it for fun, no, it's for fun. If you just want to make art, and art doesn't need an audience. As soon as you find an audience, it becomes entertainment. So I feel like if your goal and your direction is you want to get in front, you want to start playing arena shows, or if you just want to start playing bigger venues, you have to get outside of, you have to get off the West Coast, basically, in general. You have to get outside of Vancouver. Canada's music scene is in Toronto. The United States has a scene in New York, Chicago, Nashville, Austin, LA. I mean, those are just the hotbeds. There's scenes everywhere, though, absolutely everywhere. But if your goal is to grow, you have to go to those scenes. You can't do it in Vancouver alone. But you can make, if your goal is to play shows in Vancouver all the time, there are bands that do it, and there are bands that get those gigs. And if your goal is to make money, you got to do corporate gigs, and then may not be playing the music that you want to, but you'll be able to support yourself with the music that you play. So it's always a give and take and a balance. There's very rarely is there a situation where you get to live exactly where you want to live, and play exactly what you want to play, and make exactly what you want to make off of it. So yeah, my advice is know where you want to go, and maybe don't feel bad realizing that you were wrong first, because half of your life is realizing that you were wrong when you were younger.
Hey, it's James from Support the Scene. If you're interested in being interviewed or want to be featured on our channel, please comment down below or find us on Facebook and message us, and we'll get back to you as fast as we can. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Rock on.